Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Artillery Life. And it is that time of the year again where people are dusting off the lawnmowers, getting ready to mow their lawn, especially depending on where you are living at. And with that being the case, we are going to do a lawnmower review. Recently, last year, I bought a new riding lawnmower. I had to get rid of my old one. So we're going to go ahead and review it and see if it's any good. And that lawnmower that we are going to be diving into is the John Deere S100. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is what type of lawn this mower is good for. In other words, who's going to be the target audience? The John Deere S100 is built for mostly residential use. It's ideal for small to medium sized yards. I would say up to 1 to 1.5 acres. And if you got relatively flat terrain with minimal obstacles, just like the lawn that I have, this mower will thrive in that environment. The 42-inch cutting deck gives you a solid balance between coverage and maneuverability. So just to recap that a little bit more directly, this is going to be best for flat to slightly uneven lawns. Lawns that are around an acre to an acre and a half large, you might be able to bump up to 2 acres depending, but at that point I might start looking at getting a zero turn. Yards that have minimal trees and flower beds that are inside it, because it is a little bit rough when you're trying to navigate around all those different things and you're trying to get that beautiful crisp crosscut going. And I think this is going to be good for homeowners that are looking for a lawnmower that won't break the bank. Let's be honest, this is the cheaper lawnmower that John Deere has in stock. So you're getting the John Deere quality name, but at the same time, it's not going to break the bank. Just for an example, I got mine for a little over $2,000 when I bought this last year. Now, obviously, if you're watching this in the future, rise of inflation, things of that nature, that may take shape. Next, because I do know that this is important, sometimes when you buy these John Deeres, although it may be brand new, it's not actually brand new. It may be a few model years back. Let's go ahead and talk about how you figure out how old this model actually is. And the reason I say this is because depending on where you buy this, especially in the big box stores, you want to know that you are getting the newest product. So one way that you can do that is exactly how I'm going to explain it to you. So if you want to know how old a John Deere S100 is, check the serial number sticker. It's typically under the seat or on the frame near the back of the mower. You'll see the serial number starts with a few letters and then some numbers. Usually the first digits indicate the manufacturing year. You can also use the serial number on the John Deere website or call customer service to confirm. But once again, if you're going to buy this from a big box store, I highly suggest flipping that seat over and double checking to see how old that is if you do care about getting the newer year model. Usually when you ask, they'll say, oh yeah, sure, we have another one in stock over here, and they'll go ahead and get that for you. Remember, when you're buying, it's okay to be a little pushy. You are the customer. You want to make sure you get what you want. Since we mentioned big box stores, I do want to talk about the different ways that you can buy this. You can either buy this, as I said before, in a big box stores like Lowe's, Home Depot, or you can go to an authorized retailer. Since we talked about big box stores, I want to talk about the difference between buying from those big box stores like Lowe's, Home Depot, things of that nature, versus an authorized retailer and what the differences are. Normally, when I buy pieces of equipment for my lawn, not really lawnmowers too much, but mostly when it came to chainsaws, weed eaters, things of that nature, I always buy from authorized dealers. But this time, I wanted to try something different and really use this as an experiment so that way I can go ahead and let you all know what it is like. So I went ahead and bought mine from a big box dealer. Specifically, I bought mine from Lowe's. Here's my little breakdown of how all that went versus what you would normally expect at a retailer. So normally in big box stores, they're often going to be cheaper or have some type of finance deals because they're able to do that. They're big box stores. They make a lot of money. On the downside, sometimes those big box stores will have third parties assemble them. Sometimes they'll let you know that this was assembled there in the store by the service reps. But most of the time, from what I've researched, it's usually a third party doing. Another thing is less personalized service. Me personally, I bought this online from our local Lowe's store, and they came to deliver it. Now, when they deliver it, it was a third-party delivery person delivering the package. And when I got it, I was actually very upset to find out that the battery is basically dead, that there was no knowledge really whatsoever from the delivery person on how to operate the lawnmower. Now, I've owned lawnmowers for years, so I know how to work them. But if you were somebody who was maybe newer to owning a riding lawnmower, this wouldn't have been very helpful for you at all. And just so happens, luckily, I had in a battery charger, so I was able to get it up and running. But I did call Lowe's back, and they ended up being very, very kind about it and shipped me out another lawnmower because they felt so bad about the battery being dead. That was a kudos for the big box store to go ahead and do that, but it never should have happened in the first place. Another thing that you may lack when you buy from the big box store is going to be less personalized service, as I was just talking about. If something goes wrong, it's going to be a lot harder to get that into a big box store to see what they have to do to go ahead and fix it, especially if you have a warranty, as opposed to an authorized retailer. Now that we kind of hit up those things, let's talk about those authorized retailers. What are the benefits and what are the downfalls? Well, normally it is an expert who is there putting it together, assembling it, and setting it up if there's any assembly needed. Another key thing, and something that I always loved, was a personalized walkthrough. I remember when I bought a chainsaw not too long ago, a few years back, from an authorized dealer. I didn't know how to work this specific chainsaw, and I wanted to make sure I knew all the features about it. So they went and walked me through, and they were super knowledgeable about it. The same thing applies when it comes to lawnmowers. These are experts. Another benefit is normally you are going to get a much stronger warranty support with the various warranty options that you have when it comes from an authorized dealer. I mean, their name is on the line with this, so they want to make sure that they are giving you a quality product. And lastly, just like we talked about previously, you're going to have access to better service plans. These people are knowledgeable normally at these authorized retailers. They know how to fix it. They know how to work on these things. Heck, they'll even come out to your house sometimes, depending on where you're going to buy it from, and fix it for you. I remember my neighbor bought a John Deere from an authorized retailer, and that thing was old. I mean, old. And people from the authorized dealer would come out to his house free of charge and end up fixing it. Now, I'm not going to say that's happening with every authorized dealer, but it's worth exploring and asking the questions, as this is something you would normally see out of these localized shops. So if I wasn't blatantly obvious, I personally recommend going with the long-term maintenance and support that you would normally get with the authorized dealer. But if you're confident in your setup and you want to save a few bucks, then by all means, you can go with the big box realtor. I did it and I'm doing just fine. Now, I do want to dispel a myth. Some people do try to say that when you buy from a big box store, you're getting a different product as opposed to the authorized retailers when it comes to John Deere. And that's actually a lie. That's a very, very big myth. The same type of lawnmower that you are buying out of the authorized retailer is going to be the exact same lawnmower you get from the big box realtor. Once again, the differences are just exactly what we talked about. Okay, now that we got all that out of the way, and hopefully you're starting to think about your determination, let's talk about the specs and the features the John Deere S100 has. And honestly, I think it offers a lot for its price point. Once again, as of today, you're looking at roughly around $2,200 to go ahead and get this brand new, depending on where you're looking to buy it from. All right, first, let's dive into engine performance. And I do highly encourage you to dig into yourself, because sometimes some things do change over the years, even though the model number may not change. But typically, you're going to see in this lawnmower a 17.5 Briggs & Stratton single-cylinder engine. Top speed usually runs about 5.5 miles an hour. It's got a hydrostatic transmission, which in other words means it's foot pedal controlled. That means you can go forward with one foot pedal and you can go backwards with another foot pedal. It also has an electric blade engagement. Another thing I really like is this lawnmower does have the ability to cut in reverse. You do have to press a button in order to engage that, but at the same time, I think it's good as opposed to some other lawnmowers where you are not able to do that. Next, we'll go over to the cutting deck. So the cutting deck is a 42-inch edge cutting system. It has 13 cutting height positions from 1 to 4 inches. And honestly, I really enjoy that because different times of the year, I like my grass at different lengths because I live in a very dry area, specifically Southwest Oklahoma now. So I want my grass to be certain lengths at different times of the year because of, the amount of rain we get. Anyways, enough of that. On the deck itself, it also has a side discharge standard, and you could attach if you want to. There are mulching and bagging attachments optional for this lawnmower. Next, let's go over the comfort and build. This is, I do want to keep in mind, the bottom line. The S100 is the bottom line of this John Deere budget lawnmower brand, but it does have an adjustable seat with a 2-inch slide range. And as you go up the different S's within those series, then you're going to see that the seat does get a little bit better with each one. But for this one, just an adjustable seat with a 2-inch slide range. Not the most comfortable thing in the world, but it is good for that, once again, acre to acre and a half size lawn where you're not expecting to sit very long on it anyways. It has a cup holder, also a rear hitch in case you want to hook up anything and tow something around with it. You have a plastic hood. Some people would rather have a steel hood. I know I would. I like it. But at the same time, the plastic hood is lightweight and it won't rust. Now, some people have come back saying that there have been some cracks in there, but those are very minimal. And we'll get a little bit more into that as we talk about the reviews. The turning radius on this is around 18 inches. And while that may not seem huge, me personally, I have a yard that has a wrapped in fence all around the backyard. And I got a couple weird angles where I do got to cut. And overall, that turning radius has been pretty solid for me. So I'm not going to complain about that at all. Next, let's talk about maintenance. So I do believe this to be a more maintenance friendly lawnmower, maybe not so much as maintenance friendly as the old ones that we would see way back in the day, but compared to most of the newer ones, I think this is a maintenance friendly lawnmower. It has a flip up hood for engine access. That one's engine oil change is not the best. We can go in a separate video about that if you want to see how to change the oil in it. But as you go up in models for these John Deeres, how you change the oil actually does get easier and easier and easier. And while I personally have not used this yet, they do have a Mower Plus app compatibility for tracking and maintenance. Once again, no review on that as I have never touched it and I don't know really anything about it. Next, I want to talk about some good to know information when it comes to getting this lawnmower. Once again, if you want to mow in reverse, you have that ability, but you do have to press a button in order to do that. Don't try to do it unless you press that button. It will just make your lawnmower sound crazy. Another thing is you are going to want to sharpen or replace your blades depending on what style lawn you have about every 20 to 25 hours. Now, if you're somebody who lives back in the day, I used to live in Southwest Louisiana. You had a lot of cypress knuckles sticking out of the ground, or maybe you're running over a lot of sticks because you're mowing some more wooded areas, things of that nature. Obviously, it's going to be situational dependent. But if you're just cutting straight grass, normally every 20 to 25 hours, once again, for that sharpening or replacing of blades. And lastly, there's a part on here on the deck, which is called a wash port, where you can basically hook up a hose. I highly encourage you to use this, as this can help extend the life and reduce clogs if you use this regularly. Remember, owning the lawnmower and cutting the grass is only half the thing. If you want this thing to last, you do need to take care of it. Next, I want to talk about what other people are saying about this lawnmower. Don't just take my word for it. One, do your own research, but overall, I dug into what other people are saying online at various stores and realtors and blog sites and whatnot. And here's a quick summary of that. First, let's start off with the positives. Number one, a lot of people are saying that this is a great price for a John Deere. And obviously, if you didn't know, John Deere is not known for being the cheapest brand out there, but that's for a reason, because John Deere is usually very quality products. Nevertheless, to say, a lot of people like this price, saying it's very fair and it's good for what you're getting. Other people commented on how easy it was to operate, especially without even really reading the manual. Now, I'm always going to advocate to go ahead and read that manual. There's important information for you to read in there. And other people have commented as well that it is a very smooth cut and a smooth ride. Obviously, that's going to be lawn dependent. Now, on for the criticisms. Some people say that this lawnmower is not a good lawnmower for hills. I personally couldn't test that out, as I live, once again, in Oklahoma. There isn't a lot of hills where I live in my area, so I can't really comment on it, but other people have said it is not good on those hills. Others have had some complaints, as we mentioned earlier, about the plastic hood cracking, and albeit most of those were minor, and they said it didn't really change their overall opinion, but did want you to be aware of that. And surprisingly, some people have said that this has a lack of an hour meter, and I wonder if they're talking about older models, because the model that I have definitely does have an hour meter on it where I can check how long my engine has been running. In other words, get that engine age. Overall, though, when it came to reviews, the S100 holds a solid 4.5 stars across Home Depot, Lowe's, and other dealer sites that I was checking out. Lastly, I want to get into my opinion of it, and I've sprinkled it in there little by little throughout this, but overall, I want to give you my opinion after owning this for around a year. My opinion is this: I'm pretty impressed and happy. Me personally, I have never owned a John Deere before. I know they've had a reputation. I've known other people who owned them and said nothing but positive stuff. And I honestly did not want to get a cheap budget riding lawnmower again, as it seems these things are just having issue after issue after issue. Now, the last one I had, and a lot of you have seen the reviews on it before, that one ended up not being so bad. That did go to my dad, and he used it for a few years before ended up, sadly, my dad now has Alzheimer's, so we had to get rid of that lawnmower. Last I heard, I haven't heard any complaints from the buyer, so hopefully that one is still working good. But I have seen a lot of stuff online and a lot of comments coming, especially on like those budget lawnmowers where they just broke or things broke fast, things of that nature. So I did not want to go down that road. I wanted to get something that I knew I could keep for a long period of time, but at the same time, not break the bank because I don't have a lot of money. So I wanted to get something like this John Deere, their, so-called budget lawnmower, but at the same time, knowing I can get that John Deere quality. And I really think that's what you get in this. So some of the pros for me, it's got a reliable engine. Starts up every time, except for that time where the battery was dead because the people dropped it off and the battery was already dead in it. But once that was taken care of, this thing starts up nice and fresh every single time. In fact, we just got over a period of winter where I wasn't cutting my grass at all. I went in there fully expecting to go ahead and hook it up to my battery charger, having to charge it, and I didn't have to do that. It started up right away, even after months of not running. That's awesome. Another pro are the smoothing cuts. I tell you what, the cuts on this lawnmower, I cannot complain about. The yard looks great after you're done. Another pro that I am seeing is low maintenance. Now, I've only had this for a year. We'll see what happens in year 2, 3, 4, 5, or whatever the case may be. But as of now, very minimal maintenance, only doing the bare minimum that you are recommended to do in the user manual. Another thing is the fuel efficiency. I was shocked by how efficient this was on fuel. I filled the tank all the way up, and I fully expected to have to fill it up again after 2 different cuts. That wasn't the case. This thing can cut my yard, and my yard is roughly about an acre, a little over an acre big, and I am filling this up about every 3 cuts. I thought that was pretty good. Now, one of the things I don't like about this, and I probably should have thrown it in the criticisms, was that the fuel gauge on the S100 is like a little manual toggle and it's kind of moving around in the middle there. Depending, sometimes people say that that may not work for them. For me personally, it's working just fine, but I can see how that's something that could break very, very easily and not the most reliable when it comes to saying how much fuel is in there. Next, I want to say, while this is the cheapest seat in this John Deere S series, I do find the seat personally for me very comfortable for the size of yard I have and how long I actually sit on it. Never had a sore behind or anything like that, a sore back, and I do have a bad back after 20 years in the Army, so that's a plus for me. And another thing I like were how smooth the controls are. All the controls that are on the lawnmower, I thought were very, very smooth, very easy to use. And there's, no grinding and janking and all this other stuff. I thought the controls were very, very smooth, which is very different compared to those very cheap budget lawnmowers like the Troy Builts and things of that nature. Now for the downsides. Honestly, after a year, there are none. I don't have any downsides for this lawnmower. Like I said, we'll keep checking it out after every few years, maybe year 2, 3, 4, 5 down the line. Something's going to pop up. I'll be sure to get on here and let you know when I do another review, just to show you, how long this lawnmower has been kicking for me. So overall, for my yard that is an acre-ish big, it is everything that I have hoped for. So in my opinion, if you're looking for an affordable lawnmower that is reliable and at the same time has that trusted brand behind it, I definitely would go with that John Deere S100. I think it is worth it as opposed to buying maybe those cheaper brand lawnmowers, those that you see out there today. So overall, thanks for watching my review of the John Deere S100. If this has helped you, please, I highly encourage you to hit that like button, hit the subscribe, share this video out there, as that does help in pushing this message out there. And if you're interested in anything in general, by all means, hit us up. We do a lot on this channel when it comes to fishing and home reviews and lawn equipment and all sorts of other stuff. I appreciate y'all. Thank y'all so much for watching, and I will see you in the comment section.